Hello everyone and welcome to my next app review. I'm Victor Fitzgerald and I'm going to be walking you through an app that I love to play even though it is one of the most difficult iOS games that I have ever seen, and that is called Democracy 3. Democracy 3 is difficult because it actually places you in the role of the leader of a democracy trying to make the decisions to change the political path of your country. What I'm going to do in this review is walk you through the basics of gameplay. I can't show you the whole game or I would spend an hour on this review, which no one has time for. I'm going to go ahead and hit New Game and just show you some of the basics. When you start the game, you're going to have the ability to select which country you would like to start as. I'm going to go ahead and play as the United States in this, just so that you guys can see what that looks like. Once I select my country, I have the ability to name my party and my opposition, as well as changing some of the innate abilities of my country, like the socialism sliders, the difficulties, the apathy of my people. Things like of that nature I can change. I can also change the length of my terms and my term limits, so I can be in office for a considerably longer amount of time. I also can make the U.S. a monarchy with mandatory voting, which I'm going to go ahead and run. It takes a little while for the game to load up with its first set of policies and initiatives, so keep that in mind. You will have some downtime with loading during this game, and that is to be expected with the complexity of the variables that they're dealing with in generating the game board. I also enjoy reading their loading screen. It's got some great comments about politics as a whole. Now, when the game begins, you basically have just been elected to office. This is what you're seeing in the country. So in the US, we're seeing a decent GDP, unemployment is high, health is low, education is good, poverty is on the rise, and crime is bad. So those are some policies that I'm going to want to address in my first term. Now, this is the game board itself. It is highly overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing. There is a great method of going through and tutorial systems for you to look at, but as you progress, I'm going to just show you some things right now. The board is split into sectors. The one in the bottom right you're going to see is the tax sector. That's basically where all of the other policies are getting their income. If you can see right now in the upper left-hand corner, my income and my expenses are balanced at $1,265 billion or $1.26 trillion. Now, I can change that by modifying policies as I go. So if I wanted to, say, increase the liberal nature of my constituents or make parents a little bit happier, I simply click on parents. What you then see is all of the things that are having effects on the parent substituency. I can see subsidized school buses as a policy is feeding directly into the parents. But I can see that drug addiction, asthma, handgun laws, and narcotics are bringing the parent constituency down. If I click on any one of those, I can see where they're being affected by. So every policy and every trigger is being affected by more triggers. One of the things that I noticed as we started the game was that crime, which I just selected, is having a huge effect on our entire population. And there are green arrows and red arrows you will see. So the green arrows are feeding good things into it, and the red arrows are negative effects. And so I want to go through and change policies to make sure that I can change the things that are going on. So I'm going to go ahead and select narcotics. What you see I have right now is that narcotics is outlawed. Okay, what I'm going to do is change my slider to Legalize Cannabis, and what you will see is all of the things that happen to my constituent groups as I adjust that slider. So some of them will increase, some of them will decrease, and things will generally go one way or the other depending on how you change the slider. Now I want to make sure that I keep my parents happy, so I'm going to just move this over one, and go ahead and apply the changes. What you're going to notice is I actually don't have the capital to make this policy change or legalizing marijuana. I need to get 2 more political capital points. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and just back up out of this and go on to the next turn, which in the space of a term is 3 months of time. So you have the ability to enforce policies, see how things change in real time as you modify the policies of your government. Again, I'm going to want to keep hitting crime to make sure that we take care of what's going on around the US. First and foremost, we're going to look at the screen again. My popularity has risen quite a bit. My expenses have gone down, and I have a lot more political capital to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and tackle narcotics this time around. And I'm going to scroll over to legalize LSD. It's a considerable change in what we are seeing in the policy, and I'm going to go ahead and approve that. Now, once I approve that, I'm going to go ahead and back up and see what's going on in my country and answer any questions that my cabinet members have. In this case, it's a debt protection law, basically allowing debt collection agencies to have free rein or limiting them. I'm going to go ahead and limit them by hitting select and then move on to my next 3-month segment to see what happened. When the next one kind of loads, you're going to see some changes into what I put in place. Now, not all of those are going to be immediately apparent, but you're going to see that the color of a number of sliders has changed. So now we end up with vigilante mobs coming in, which is directly fueled by racial tension. So we're going to try and fix racial tension here to make things a little bit easier. And we're going to do that by focusing on education. And what you're going to see is that education is most affected right now by a shortage of skills. And if I look at that and continue to click through, I have impact analysis of every policy and every decision that's being made. So literally, I could spend hours digesting and making choices to make every political decision I would want to make. In terms of social studies, this is an amazing app because it not only lets you explain what each policy is, but it allows you to kind of simulate the effect that those changes would have on each constituency group. And it brings to mind the idea of keeping yourself empowered and in a political office while at the same time trying to affect the policies that you want to see. So this is a great way to model government for students in the high school ages where they can make these changes as they go and see the actual effects that it would cause on the government. It takes some decoding to get the kids engaged with it, but it is a wonderful education app, and if I gave stars, it would have a 5-star education rating as well as a pretty high rating as just a game to play and a strategy game in general.